So anyway, welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
A long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time no see.
The podcast we had actually was a really good success.
You did send me some feedback on that. That's good.
A lot of
That's
people
good.
loved your energy,
Ah,
your voice, and your opinions.
well, good to know. Good to know.
I
I
guess it's
definitely have opinions. I definitely have. I definitely have, my views on life, and always a pleasure to share them.
it's the way you share them actually that's very positive in that sense. Regardless if you agree or disagree,
Right.
it's really the packaging, the way you put
Right.
it.
Right. It's there's no point of getting combative, even when you have disagreements, because then you just talk at each other and you can't understand each other. So it's like, what are you advancing? In those types of situations, I don't even engage. Like,
But that's with age, I'm guessing. Were you always like that?
no, I was hell combative. Not anymore.
No?
No, you live and you learn.
Yeah.
You live and you learn.
I pick my battles, to be extremely honest.
I pick my battles as well. They say it's if you're dragged into a battle with a fool, it just proves that there's two of you.
Oh, wow.
Haven't heard that?
No,
Yeah.
but I really like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
It's actually very, very true. But I feel like there's a lot of fools around us
there are.
lately. And it's really interesting because we do have these conversations, you and I. There's a lot of hot topics,
Yeah.
right? A lot of trending topics, a lot of topics for the moment. And we can name so many, right? Ukraine, COVID, the government, LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, whatever you want to pick, there is. Sadly, or even Palestine and Israel,
Yeah.
we can go on and on and
Yeah.
on and on. But how do you navigate actually through all that? I call it noise, to be
Yeah.
extremely honest,
Yeah.
because it's really hard to understand what is true, what is
what
not, and what is not totally true.
Yeah. I mean, one, I think, good indicator is when mainstream media pushes one narrative, start leaning the opposite way.
Really?
That's pretty much my position. Is it too far?
I just want to
that
hear you
better?
properly.
Better now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So that's one of my indicators. So when I see the mainstream media machine really forcefully behind one concept, that's a huge red flag.
So how do you confirm your information? Okay, so I have a really good friend of mine. So shout out to Sandra, by the way, big listener of the pod, and we have these big conversations regularly. The issue where I'm worried a bit is how do you determine what is true, what is not, right? Because Google is pretty much
About
everything
media?
and nothing, right? And you have to learn how to actually do your research
Yeah.
and determine. Even sources now could be falsified,
For sure.
right? Everything's smoking mirrors, actually.
Everything's smoke and mirrors.
So how do you navigate and determine that this makes more sense? Is it like common sense or like 20 references?
Well, obviously,
or?
you have to apply common sense. I think common sense says a lot. So let's, I guess we can use some examples. Like, so let's look at COVID. All right. So how COVID, when the vaccine came out, the level of censorship of opposing ideas or opposing opinions, and kind of creating this term "trust the science." But science is, you don't just trust science; you manipulate science, you work through science, you play with science, and then science evolves. So it was just this kind of like concept of don't ask any questions and just go with it. So when something becomes that forceful and then you're not allowed to ask questions, you're not allowed to look at the flip side of the conversation, that to me is a massive, massive red flag. So then I get very curious of who is being silenced.
But does it make the narrative false?
It makes me question, and so then
Oh.
it makes me want to hear opposing views. And so then I'm going to start hearing opposing views, and then I'm going to raise an eyebrow based on what I hear. So I'm not going to jump the gun in terms of my opinion, and I didn't make an opinion about the vaccine for a long time. However, I did not make an opinion whether I was for it or against it, but I'm not going to go and get it when I'm not sure about my opinion. So there wasn't enough data, so I wanted more data. It was being coerced. People, come on, it was being promoted. Get a shot and get a free hot dog. I mean, this was like, it was pretty extreme. And then you have people losing their jobs over that. And then, truckers who were our saviors during the pandemic and the lockdowns, like God bless our truckers, then became the rednecks and white supremacists. It's just the narrative changed as they were pushing the agenda, and I didn't buy it. So yeah, the more something is forced upon me, the more I start looking at like, okay, what's behind it?
So what do you think is behind it now? Now that the dust has settled a bit,
Well,
and Trudeau saying it was a choice, not an obligation.
well, it was definitely not a choice. It was 100% an obligation. I mean, it's you feed your family. And I really sympathize with people who got the shot. And I mean, I really sympathize with those that were coerced and did it because it's that or I can't put food on the table. I really sympathize with that. So I'm not, like, I don't have any negative opinion about those who got it. What do I think the agenda was in this stage of the game? Obviously, look, there was population control.
What do you mean? In which sense? They wanted to kill the population?
No, controlling people, controlling the population,
okay.
right? Population control, testing how far they can push conformity and compliance. Obviously, profits.
Profits, I think, is number one, to be extremely honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe a precursor for something else. We're already talking about another pandemic coming out. So I'm not sure.
But for sure, there's going to be other pandemics. The way we're living, the way the habits, the way we actually industrialize food and agriculture, for sure it's coming again.
But do you think that it was like it occurred because like a bat?
I don't know. But it's besides the point. Even if it was man-made and organized by people, there was a study that came out a couple of years before that said that we're overpopulated, right? And a lot of people are saying...
But how is that true, though?
What do you mean?
How are we overpopulated?
Well, the planet, naturally speaking, I'm not talking from an industrial point of view. From a natural point of view, for whatever the Earth can give as resources, from what I understood, we're supposed to be at 2.6 billion. And right now we're around close to 9 billion from what I remember. India just surpassed China.
Yeah.
And the thing is, these diseases come out of these places where hygiene, it's not at its best, high poverty, and low quality food. Now, is it an animal, not an animal? Is it a virus that came out of a lab? If I would be a betting man, I think it's from a lab.
Ditto.
My theory is that's where it came, and they didn't want to take responsibility because they fucked up. But it happened. There's like 20 million Hollywood movies about that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But now, was it purposely or was it a mistake?
Who knows?
Who cares? At this point.
Like, who cares? Who knows? Yeah.
Now, it was crazy because this virus only affected mostly the obese and the elderly. And that was a study that was like this theory of we have to eliminate. If we would be able to remove the moral stand of killing people, we would kill the obese and the elderly because they're holding on to society. And again, it was a theory. I'm not saying it's what happened.
It's flawed. And I'll tell you why I think it's flawed. I think this overpopulation conversation is a flawed conversation to begin with.
Fair enough.
And again, I don't have stats. I have my phone next to me. So if ever we want to pull something up, we will. But we're in the peak of the population that will ever exist on Earth. It's right now. We will never be more populated than we are right now. And the proof for that is that the birth rates across the globe are declining.
Actually, that's not totally true.
Birth rates?
Yeah, birth rates in Africa quadrupled.
Have you looked? Okay, so look at the countries that have the most population.
The most population? India and China we're talking about here? Yeah, India just surpassed China.
So globally, and even in the US, so globally, the birth rates globally are declining as opposed to what they once were. Actually, I think it was Elon Musk that came out and said that we will not have a higher population than what we currently have. And as a matter of fact, we don't have enough young people being born today. And so we have...
But that's actually not true. That I can confirm the statistics. And again, that is probably true in Europe and North America. Okay. That is actually probably very, very true. But China, the issue is if you look at their numbers, when they had that law that you can only have one child, except if it's a boy, then a second child, and that was about it. Yet it went down and then went back up. They were still the biggest population in the world for the last 20 years until India surpassed them. Now, if you look at Africa or South America, they're having their average household is 3 kids.
Right.
North America and Europe is, I think, 0.8.
Correct.
Right? So they're going lower because they're more focused on them and their career and their business. But all those other countries, the average age in Africa right now is 22 years old. The average age in Europe is 48.
Right.
So that is true in Europe. But Africa is actually super young population.
I'm curious as to what the global situation is. Because, yeah, I think you're right about Africa, and I think you're right about South America as well as Europe.
But I think that's 2/3 of the population.
I don't know.
I would believe. Yeah, well.
I don't know. So that's the question mark right there. I mean,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
have to do some more.
No, no, no.
work on that, but that
I
would
get
be
what
my
you said because
question
I
mark. So my
actually saw
question
the
mark:
thing
are
this
we
week.
really that overpopulated? What are the implications for generations to come?
Well, it's okay. So I'm pretty much sure you're a firm believer of eating well, doing
course.
sports, and
I mean, I work in fitness.
Yeah.
100%.
That's what I meant. So
Yeah.
because of that, right now we're doing a lot of processed food, a lot of transformed food, even vegans. Now we're seeing the side effects of all
It's
this.
horrible.
Exactly.
It's horrible.
So it was the way they labeled it before. Remember, it's good for no violence against animals. It's good for your health. It's only veggies and.
I'm a pescatarian, so I haven't eaten meat since 2012.
Wow.
I never bought into the vegan agenda.
Okay, no, but
Because exactly for that purpose, everything is so highly processed. Unless you're eating food, to me, it's very simple. Food has to resemble as close as possible to its original state, or you have to be able to identify exactly where it came from.
Okay.
When you start,
How's that going for you right now?
For me, it's good.
Even here in Quebec, because
For me, it's good. I mean, I eat vegetables, fruits.
yeah, but even that is imported and exported, and you know how the process goes. It's injected.
Well, yeah. Yes, I'm not 100% organic for sure.
No, but even organic right now, we're finding that there's flaws in the whole theory behind it. Right? It's just a label.
So then you do the best that you can within what's available, right? So it's like if we know that even the food that looks as pure as possible, which is like an apple in its natural form, if we're questioning that, now imagine all that processed stuff.
Yeah.
To what degree, right?
I agree.
So yeah, there's definitely.
But it's getting worse and worse because if we go back to the population number, right now we're getting closer to the 9 billion. Last year we were at 8 something, the couple of years before 7. So we are still growing. Now, Elon Musk is saying that it's going to hit a peak. We haven't hit it yet.
He's saying that we're amongst it. We're in the midst of it right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe the growth percentage is slowing down.
Perhaps.
But it's still going. It's not going in decline, that's for sure. And that's with what happened with COVID.
Right.
So imagine the growth percentage, because that had to be falsified for 2-3 years. There was a lot of people dying for whatever reasons. The virus, Italy got hit big.
But how many excess deaths? See, that's another question. So it's like, yes, a lot of people died during COVID due to COVID, but everybody else stopped dying of any other thing.
No. People
so like,
died.
what is the excess death that we encountered?
Well, even if, let's just say it was 0.5% out of 9 billion, that's a lot, right? So I would have thought because there was more deaths, because during COVID, there was a lot more pregnancies too.
Correct.
And I work in the business of kids.
That's right.
There's a lot of COVID babies.
That's right.
Right? And that's why they kept busy, right? They were stuck between 4 walls.
Exactly. You're confined, you're locked down.
So again, I'm just saying that the way I see things right now, the way, especially in North America, and you look at it in labeling, marketing of food and beverages and all this. And it's really funny because they just put a label on organic or pure or non-gluten or whatever these new terms that they're putting in through. And then a couple of years down the line, like, oops, by the way, this is not necessarily the best, but we've been doing this from the beginning of time.
Sure.
Cigarettes were actually recommended good for your health.
Absolutely.
For depression, stress, and I don't know what to remember until side effects might occur as death.
As was salt, and then it was replaced by sugar.
Now sugar, we know it's a cure, but we're forgetting, we don't mention that too much. Because now there's sugar, processed sugar.
Refined sugar.
And now they have, I think it was 22 different names to say sugar when you label a product. Corn syrup, and I don't know what the... So now you have to go back in school, study literally food to know and understand all these... And this is where like they confuse us with all these new words, new terms, veganism, gluten, whatever
all
it is.
All these other diets too. Keto
exactly. And then the carnivore, and then this meat is good, meat is bad, meat is amazing, not too much, not enough.
It's the most, listen, anything that's like fitness related or nutrition related, as far as I'm concerned, it's like the most controversial topic because you'll never find the right answer. Everybody has a different opinion.
But isn't that scary?
Well, yes and no,
because
but I mean, I just look at it like there's many roads to health. There's a lot of people. I mean, in terms of, look, I mean, there's people that are going to be raw vegans, right? So they don't need any of that processed vegan stuff. They're super healthy. There's people that are going to be on the carnivore diet. They're super healthy. So I don't know that there's a one, type of approach to health.
Yeah, everybody's
and
a bit
to
different.
wellness, and everybody's different. And there's a new study that came out actually that says that an obese person that trains an hour a day versus somebody who is of good health physically, like just in good shape, but doesn't train, the obese person is going to outlive that person.
Yeah, but that's outlive.
Yeah. Yeah. So being sedentary is by far the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, but if he was obese, that means he was.
You could be obese. Let's just say you walk for an hour a day. You do some exercise for an hour a day. So if
but you eat
exercise,
tons of sugar.
you're obese. So
Yes.
naturally, you don't have the healthiest diet.
Yeah.
And you can be, flip side, you can be a smoker and exercise an hour a day. You would outlive somebody who is sedentary.
Yeah, okay.
That is in good shape and eating well.
But the interesting research would be compare somebody that eats well and does exercise versus all of them. Because now we're comparing two evils. The lesser of two evils, right?
The person that eats well and exercises, I mean, they're in a different arena.
So that's
they're in
it.
a different arena, for sure.
So that would be interesting because I'm pretty much sure he would outlive them all.
Correct.
And that would be pretty much the goal here.
Exactly.
Putting all the chances, because there is always exceptions. I had my
Exactly.
great-grandfather that died at 99. He would smoke a pack a day. Now, is he the norm? Definitely not.
Definitely not.
And he was living in a different era because he was doing a lot of sports, exercises.
And he lived where?
And he lived in North Africa.
There you go.
So he ate natural.
From his land.
Exactly.
Like my grandmother passed away 4 years ago at 110.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's like
110.
110.
Holy snap.
110 with her mind 100% sharp. And again, in Greece, grew up by the water with, eating the food from the land.
110.
110. And
That has to be
yeah.
a kind of record, I'm guessing.
She got this close to being in the Guinness.
What's the get? 111?
I don't remember what it was. There was a
Really?
man, one of her nephews was working on that, one of my uncles.
Really? 110. Wow.
Yeah, she came
God
close.
bless her. So she had two lives.
She had 2 lives. Literally.
Literally.
Literally. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she had 2 lives.
But you see, even on this type of subject where the sign should be pretty clear, it's unclear. Because it
Yeah.
feels like when they find a solution to one problem, the side effect of that solution is another problem.
Right, but then there's just applying certain things in moderation to your lifestyle. You cannot go wrong if you cut out, for example, let's just say you cut out fried stuff. You cut out sugars and desserts. You cut out soda. And you incorporate health and wellness. Like, so you start training
Yeah.
3-4 times a week.
But we're not
You're already
educated.
ahead of the game.
We're not educated that way anymore. That's the thing. I keep on telling even to my kids, like, yes, when we were younger, they used to tell you like milk,
Right.
great for you, your bones,
Right.
calcium and everything.
Right.
Now today we know that cow milk is not necessarily the best.
Right. But would you want to definitely would you want to vilify cow's milk when you're having a cup of soda? Like, so in the grand scheme of things, go have your cow's milk. This is my philosophy. Go drink your cow's milk and drop the soda. You'll never
Just drop
have,
both.
Well, but people won't do that. People are not
But
going to.
why? That's my
Because
question.
people are creatures of comfort. I'll give you an example. My mother grew up in the villages and the mountains in Greece. For her, milk is her comfort food. It reminds her of home. She'll never drop it. You know what I'm saying? So some things represent something to some people. So for me, it's just pick the lesser of two evils, because there's really, when you try to cut everything out, you just end up giving in and giving up eventually, because it's not sustainable. So we have lives to live. We have social lives.
But is
you
it
want to go take your kids out and have an ice cream? Are you going to think about, I'm not going to have an ice cream with my kids in the summer because it's made of dairy or there's some sugar? You're going to allow yourself to indulge here and there. I just believe that we can consume what we want to consume in moderation and adopt a healthy lifestyle.
But don't you feel like if they would market it that way, it would be a lot easier? Because I don't think it's hard to maintain. It's what we're bombarded constantly.
Yeah, but it's who markets? Corporations for profit. You know what I heard? This was so odd. I think I saw that on Joe Rogan, that kiddie cereals are placed at the level, the
Of the
height,
kids. Yeah.
the height row that is in line with the kids'
Yeah.
eyes. And the ones that are placed higher, if you see their characters, they're looking down so they can look at the kids. So that has been thought out, the way they design the cereal
No.
boxes.
Even when you go to the cashier, all the chocolate bars are lower
100%.
because they want the kid to see
Say,
it.
Mommy, buy me this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I get the marketing part, but I was like, I find like we could find a
I think we
gray
could be
zone.
more ethical.
Yeah.
I think we could be more ethical. But unfortunately, this kind of goes back to how we started this conversation. Though we can be more ethical, we have a government that's running this country based on profits. And I don't think that they have the interests of the population. I think they have the interests of their, I would call them investors, but they're their supporters that
Yeah.
put in that put in a lot of money behind them. to basically get rulings and laws and things to go their way. So I really don't think that their interest is the people. I think their interest is corporation.
Do you know any country that their interest is the population?
There was this one man, Jose Mujica, I think, in a Latin American country.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was driving a Beetle. He was taking, I think, a salary of like 40 grand
Okay.
and was giving the rest to his people.
Okay.
I don't remember which country it was, like Nicaragua or something.
Yeah,
like
it sounds like something like that.
But yeah, so there's, in the history, there's this one person that I can think of. But essentially, no, people don't necessarily have the best interests of the people.
Because if you think that through history, right? If you usually they tell you if you want to see a solution, find a solution for the future, you have to look in the past.
Right.
But I haven't seen even democracy in its purest form didn't last that long in Greece, right? Socrates said it best: for democracy to work, you have to put the best people in the best roles.
Correct.
That are adapted to their skill set.
Correct.
Today, it's not the case.
No.
You can have the governor of education that is a lawyer. I don't know what he knows about education.
Correct. And that's flawed. And I don't know why that happens. I don't know.
It's a popularity context. It's all about lobbying right now. So that's the issue. So you have lobbyists, right, that are paid by these corporations to put money in these political subjects or figures, right, for them to have their agenda and their rulings and their laws in their favor. The tobacco companies used to do it a lot.
Yeah.
Then after that, the research was a bit too much.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, it's like we find a problem. There's a good movie. It's called Thank You for Smoking.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Very good movie. Came out in early 2000s.
Okay.
And what was funny was the three biggest corporations that would sit down. So it was tobacco, guns, and the third one was, I think it was food. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I don't remember. But it was these three heads, and they would sit down and find ways to manipulate the population for them to sell more and make it more. So that's why the movie's called Thank You for Smoking. Because the more you smoke, the more they're making money. And even putting them, they had to put the lungs and those people diseases.
But they still do that, and people still smoke.
And now then vape came out of it. And
Still smoke.
yeah.
Like imagine you get people don't buy information anymore. It's not because information is available that they believe it. Isn't that crazy? So you buy a carton of smokes with a person that has a tracheotomy and highlighting the risks of what it can cause, and you're going to still light up.
Yeah, because they don't see it around them. That's another thing.
You think so?
Yeah. How many people do you, because I remember in the 80s, I don't know, there was a lot of commercials with that person with that machine with the hole in the nut.
Right.
I haven't met none of them anymore. I don't know where they are. I know, and actually that's not true. I met somebody 2 months ago that actually did. She had a scarf and everything with a hole in her neck. But before it felt like it was the most common thing. You would smoke, that's what's going to happen to you.
Right.
But now today you don't see it. So a lot of people are like, that's all, it only happens to others. Others. And because of that, people are, and these teenagers now, they're vaping. From what we're understanding, it's as bad or maybe as worse.
As bad or worse, yeah.
Because of the whole water or whatever. But everybody's doing it because it smells good, because it tastes good, it must be good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But for me, it's like, it's when you have access to information and you're still making these decisions, it's like, wake up. What do you want me to say? I mean...
Yeah, but the whole COVID situation, Ukraine versus Russia situation, all these situations, international or local, it depends who you listen to. I remember during COVID, depending on which channel you were listening to, especially in the States, between Fox and CNN.
Yeah, different opinions.
Different opinions. Yeah. But I find it scary because it's the media. There shouldn't be an opinion.
Correct.
You're giving the news. So you're supposed to be giving facts or events.
But do you think that that's what they do?
No.
No.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Because they have people behind them pushing 100%. Their agenda. The whole Fox scandal, where they were pushing for Trump, knowing that they didn't agree with him.
Right.
Yeah, what happened to them? A couple of guys got fired, the lower guys. Exactly. And then we're back at it again.
Did you see that that clip? It's going around in social media where you have a bunch of news reporters from different channels, and then you mash them up.
Saying all the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah.
The same script from different states.
Yeah, they're all...
That's incredible.
Well, they're all owned by the same
Of
the
course,
same
it's a
company they're
narrative.
pushing.
So if anybody thinks that this is like honest reporting, you have proof that it's not.
But I don't even feel there, because I remember even before the internet and there was newspapers and stuff like that, those who control the media control the world.
There used to be, yeah, but I just in the past, and again, I don't know numbers off the back of my head, but in the past there was more outlets of media.
Yes.
And it wasn't owned by, I think now it's being run by like 3 major companies. If I'm
Actually,
not
it's
mistaken.
one that is owned by 3 that is
Right.
owned by all. Yes.
Right.
Black Rock, I
Black
think.
Rock,
Yeah, that's it.
So that wasn't the case in the past.
Mhm.
So you had more sources. So there was, you wanted to get out a story first and bring it as honestly as possible. But through having everything controlled through one company, well, there you have it. So it's not,
But now they just want to come out first. It doesn't mean if they don't care if it's right or wrong, truth or false.
it's propaganda.
Yeah.
It's no longer informative. It's propaganda. I don't watch media at all. I just,
So how do you get the news? How do you know what's going on in the world?
well, I follow some stuff.
Some stuff.
I follow some stuff.
Because
Look, I don't follow any of those mainstream like CNN and Fox, but I do follow some less popular media sources that are less funded. And so you get different opinions, different positions, but I'm very well of what goes on in the world.
yeah, because I enjoy verifying the news through different outlets.
Correct.
Fox, CNN, or even the small ones, even the YouTube, little tiny YouTube channels and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But it's fascinating because it feels like it's a sci-fi movie,
Right.
right? Because everybody has a story to tell, the same
Right.
story, but different angles.
Right.
Now, what is true, what is not true, you try to use common sense, but it becomes very delicate. They say, right, that the story, the book is written by the winner, right?
Correct.
And there's this African proverb that says, a lion will never be glorified until he eats the hunter. Right? So because of that, because you lose or because you do not have the tools or
Right.
you'll never be heard in equal terms because he's going to be louder, shinier,
Right.
more distractions.
But there's a movement to what you're doing, though.
What would-
Podcasters. People are actually looking at podcasters as sources of media and truth and information. There's a huge movement.
that's a very risky.
Well,
I would
nonetheless,
never
but-
dare say I
but-
have the truth. I
And
like
I'm
to.
just saying, look at somebody like Joe Rogan. Would you say that he's an authority in bringing and shedding light to truth and having and just questioning conversations and
The questioning part I enjoy, but
having opposing views on his show, and so people will look at that.
no, I get that. But Joe Rogan, I appreciate his pod. I really like his pod, depending on his guests, of course.
Right.
But the issue, even him, is biased in his own opinion. And this is where it becomes delicate because as much as Joe Rogan says it constantly on the pod, that he's not an expert, he just did a little research here and there.
Right.
He's at 2,000 plus podcasts. And there's a
Right.
couple of podcasts that are very suspicious, right? And again, you don't need to agree with him with everything, but it's the way it's pushed. And again, I feel like he still has people paying for him. Sponsors, Spotify behind him and stuff
But
like that.
nonetheless, people are looking at him as
Yeah,
a more honest source of information than mainstream media.
But isn't that crazy that you'll go and see
But
a guy that just does UFC commentary and
Well,
is a
yeah, but
comedian
why did
versus a scientific?
But why did we get to that?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
mainstream media is so dishonest. And so what it's doing is it's pushing people to look for alternative sources of information. And rightfully so. I mean, there has to be, look, at the end of the day, people have now awakened to dishonesty. They have awakened to propaganda,
Well, yeah, I agree.
right? So to me, it speaks volumes for where we are as a society when, your word is more valuable than an authority. You don't value the words of the authorities anymore.
Yeah. No,
So
I
it's,
agree. But I feel like it's a dangerous path now where certain things, because I make this joke all the time with my son where I say, yeah, TikTok must be the truth. Right? Because it's said on TikTok, maybe somebody
Yeah.
did a reel, maybe somebody
Yeah.
put a graphic,
Right.
uses big words, it must be true. And this is where it becomes very, very, very.
For sure.
Because anybody with a mic, right? And I tell everybody on the pod and often, I have no scientific, I'm going to share what I read
Right.
and what I think.
Right.
It's
You
not
don't claim to know the truth.
exactly. I'm not
You-
saying this
you-
is,
That's
I don't
right.
want to go into the circle of propaganda
That's
or
right.
these conspiracy theories. Because once you jump into that rabbit hole, it never ends.
No, of course it never ends. But okay, so let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question rather. Somebody who comes to you and tells you, "Oh, have you heard this conspiracy theory?" and they explain to you a theory.
Yes.
Do you dismiss it, or do you look at it from a lens of like, could be?
So if it makes a little bit of sense, I will do my research.
Okay.
I have a friend that came with a flat earth, just to give you the most
The flat Earth theory.
flat earth theory.
Apparently, that's been disproven, but okay.
It's been disproven for
Many times.
many
Many,
years,
many
but
times.
it was
Okay.
interesting to actually listen to them because it's easy to, when you do the science, you do the research on your
Right,
own. You
right.
can do tests at home to determine that it's not true.
Right.
But when you listen to the documentaries, when you listen to their, their TED Talks or
Right.
whatever, I understand why some people will understand, because it's the way they package it, and because if you did one mistake or something is not quite true,
Right.
so it doesn't make them necessarily true, but the way they say it and approach it, that's how it goes. They were saying that the moon landing was false.
Yeah.
And I was
heard
like, okay, even if it is false, that doesn't prove Earth is flat,
that. Correct.
right?
But yeah, so for me, it's like my sense on conspiracy theories is like, however far-fetched it is, my concept about that is like, okay, and my brain will tell me, okay, that is so far-fetched, but I guess I've adopted a position that I'm not going to definitively agree or disagree with something.
But I don't think we were designed that way, or else religion wouldn't have that much weight in today's society.
What do you mean?
So you're talking about things that are far-fetched, right? And I respect all religions.
Right.
I believe religion is a necessity in today's society, specifically as a guide. But when you think about certain stories today with what we know and everything, right? If you think about Judaism, it was a burning bush that gave the 10 Commandments to
Right.
Moses. Like, if you would forget about that part, right? And I would make you a story on TV show about that, you would be like, the writers were on crack or something, right? You wouldn't believe it. But because we grew up with these stories, we grew up with these beliefs, they are more accepted. And I feel like the government and media are trying to pull that off. If you're able to condition people long enough, because it's massive conditioning,
Correct.
right? And as much as religion, I'm not saying God doesn't exist or he does exist. That is a debate for another day.
Right.
I'm just saying that religious people, I'm not talking about religion here, people that were in power, the Pope or, Muslim sheikhs or what kind of religion you want to pick, they decided to take that knowledge or that popularity and use it in their advantage
Right.
to control their mass. Way back when, they didn't have social media. So their mass was a village, a country, a region, and it wasn't globally until where we are today. But today, with one TikTok trending, you can affect millions of people.
Yeah.
The Andrew Tate is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him, he blew up. He was the most
did.
Googled person last year.
Do you love him or hate him?
I have, like everything, and there's certain things that I agree, certain things that are far-fetched. But I don't believe in anybody, and even I don't believe in myself.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
That's what I mean. I can't be
100%.
I can't be right on everything. It's impossible. Now, it's only the crazy people that don't change their mind or don't evolve.
That's right.
My opinions or my thoughts of a couple of years back are
Correct.
not the ones today.
Correct.
And it's okay. And
thank you for saying that, because it takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to identify that you can evolve and you can change your position when you're presented with, different life experiences or different information. And that is, I think, one of the most crucial characteristics of a person that can evolve through life.
So let me play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
So are the government allowed that type of indulgence?
Of course.
As long as they say they did a mistake.
Of course, but I mean, in order for that to happen, how do you rebuild trust from a situation where there's been such a breach of trust? Right?
It depends on the reason.
Well, you stop getting government handouts. You stop certain things, and then you have to slowly but surely kind of restore trust amongst the people. But of course, I believe that anything can be repaired with proper action and proper intention to remedy situations. There's no black and white.
There's a lot of gray right now.
Life is just gray. There's really no black and white. There's different shades of gray.
You think? There's certain things that I feel like they're or black or
Like what?
white. Gravity. let's go very simplistically because science
Okay, yeah,
evolves. There's certain
okay.
things that won't change. You can
Okay.
jump 1,000 times from a building, you will
okay.
always fall.
Okay, fair.
Right?
Fair.
Killing out of pleasure.
Right.
Right? Now, killing self-defense, that it would be the gray zone,
Right.
right? But killing, or you see, you can rob somebody if it's just for greed, that's black. If it's for survival because you have to feed your kids, that's a different story.
Right.
So you have certain things,
So
that
even killing is a gray zone.
depend why you kill.
But
But
again-
if I kill out of pleasure, that is definitely not a gray zone.
Right.
If you
but
go into
killing
detail.
in and of itself is a gray zone.
But we can't, that's the thing. So I
You
feel
can
like,
have it to one extreme, which is
yeah,
dark gray, almost black,
yeah,
and you can have it in the other extreme.
true.
Right? So that too is on a spectrum.
No, I agree. No. And again, and it's very understandable because our values and our morals evolve with society,
Correct.
right? There were certain things that weren't accepted before that are accepted today. And there was a lot of things that were accepted before that could never fly today. Yet, I feel like we're going full circle right now. So if you think about the whole pedophiles going on, they have their own flag. That like shocks me until this day.
That shocks me till this day as well.
And yet, I remember in the 80s, 90s, it wasn't even conceivable
Right.
that we would even have this conversation.
Right.
Now there's TED Talks about it, trying to
Yeah.
convince us that
There are such people called MAPS, minor attracted people.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they even have a flag with the light baby blue to the darkest baby blue for teenage,
Yeah.
attracted teenage to
Yeah.
younger kids. Some people identify as younger. So it's the only reason I'm so involved in that specific subject is because I have kids.
Same here.
The truth is, if I didn't have kids, I wouldn't really care.
I mean, I think we should care because it's like if you don't have kids, but let's just say you have a sibling that has kids. For me, anyways, I
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
believe,
but that's
I
what I
believe in
mean.
everybody's kids are. If I stand up
For
for my
sure.
child, I'm standing up for yours.
No, but I work in
right?
daycares. Now,
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
is
yeah.
my business. But like,
Yeah.
if I would be a teenager just in love to play basketball or whatever, that would be like background noise. I'll face it
Right.
when it actually,
Right.
it evolves around
Impacts
me. But now there's these little things, these little agendas going on
Yeah.
where I find it interesting. Even if we take the most basic one, Ukraine and Russia, right? Everybody jumped on it. Everybody was this and that. The president is, he was what, the man of the year and whatever.
Of course.
And then,
Of course.
like,
Isn't he like an actor?
yes,
Similar to our guy who was a drama teacher?
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, but it was a popularity context, and I understand. I have a lot of Ukrainian friends. I'm not for war in any way or
I'm
form.
not for war either.
Now, the Russian is the big bad wolf. Ukraine is the victim, and then
Says who? Mainstream media. So if they tell you jump behind this bandwagon, start to look the opposite direction.
But did you listen to Russian media or Chinese media about that? It's fascinating how it's
so
completely
different.
opposite.
So different. So different.
So I'm like, so from here we're saying they're brainwashing their people. Yet I'm pretty much sure they're saying they're brainwashing
Who's
us.
brainwashing their people?
So the Chinese are saying the Americans are brainwashing their people,
Right.
right? Making them the evil.
Right. But
you know.
hasn't Ukraine like jailed his opponent?
Yeah.
Mm.
But we forget that part because he's here to save and he's,
Of course.
you
of
know.
course, Of course.
and I think it was Sean Penn that gave him his Oscar.
Of course. Of course. But that's actually very fitting.
yeah, it is.
It's actually quite fitting.
Trumps.
You know?
Actually, that makes sense.
Well, there you go.
But it's just fascinating. If you look at another case that I find extremely fascinating is Kim Kardashian. From the daughter of a lawyer to this, what was she? The side chick to
She was
Paris
the
Hilton.
stylist.
Paris Hilton?
Yes.
Is that what she was? Okay. And to the
Leaked sex
girl.
tape,
Exactly. And now
to the
she's this
massive influencer.
multi-billion-dollar, and she went from thick to thin, like
To all the trends.
yeah.
To all the trends, yeah.
And people just following. People are
Yeah.
just buying it. And then you look at
Yeah.
it at today's society. These women are getting,
All sorts of. I think it's fascinating because if I reflect back, I don't know, I guess I always looked at life very differently. I was, I guess, in my own little world as a kid. I was never a fangirl.
Okay.
I was never a fangirl of like boy bands. I was never a fangirl of influencers or any of that. I was never a fan. I never thought about, oh, let me go to this concert. Let me go see this person. Never attracted, ever. I actually work for celebrity brands. I've been around celebrities. And I couldn't wait to come home and hug my child because that felt real.
You're not starstruck in any way or form.
Zero. but I could never really wrap my head around why people were fascinated by people. For me, it's like I'll have a lot of respect for somebody who has a talent. I love talent and I appreciate talent. So I have so much respect for talent. And if somebody's so hyper talented, you can enjoy their art. And I definitely enjoy art. But to be fascinated by what they do and how they look and how they dress and make my life resemble theirs, I don't understand that.
I can explain it to you.
Go for it.
It's false prophecies.
Okay.
Religion was actually one of the first, if you think about it from its basics, I'm not talking about the ethical part of here.
Right.
I'm talking about the trending part of religion. It was influencers. These prophets, this religion was about influencing the masses.
Right.
Right? If you think about Christianity, you have crosses everywhere that reminds you of the death of Jesus.
Right.
Go figure.
Right.
That are put everywhere. Churches, if you go back to, especially in Europe where there's a lot of heritage of history,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. Reminders of Jesus, the Virgin Mary, these statues. So it's constantly following the trend.
Right.
And now today, we're literally bombarded by false prophets. The only thing is, they say in religion, I think there's like 300 prophets, some more popular than others.
Right.
These influences are literally the same. I'm not talking from a religion point of view. I'm just talking from a popularity point of view. And it's constantly like this. We were conditioned through centuries now here of belief, superstitions, religion, whatever it is. As a child, our grandmother or grandparents would tell their parents and vice, and it goes down, 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 down. Where, like, I think about my mom, she's super superstitious.
Right.
And then you're like, but it fascinates me that you're a logical reason, yet, salt falls, has to go behind her shoulder type of thing. And you're like, where did,
Right.
because she was taught like that as a child. And because of that, why push your luck? That's why a lot of people, as they grow older, closer to death, they become religious again. Because they're like, let me put all the chances on my side. In case there is a heaven and hell, let me try to get my, halal points.
Do you really think that people follow that because of false prophecies? Or is it more the fear of not being part of the masses? Because I think people, naturally, we want to belong to something, right?
That's massive conditioning
Right.
there. Because if we would be following something for our good
Right.
in the most purest form, it wouldn't be so many subgroups, right? The vaccine was the perfect example.
Right.
You want to take the vaccine or not, it's okay. Why did you have to be like, oh, you don't take the vaccine, you're part of the problem if you take the vaccine? You know what I mean? There was
Right.
like gangs where there was families. I heard a lot of stories. I didn't have that issue at
families
home.
actually separated and fought, but that was propagated by the government. That's not even, that was...
But why do you think it was that easy to
look,
control them that quickly? Out of fear.
Because the message was only that. I mean,
But it was fear.
Look, you're from North Africa, okay?
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure you're aware of Middle East issues where you have different faiths that can live peacefully amongst each other until their government decides to pin them against each other. And so people don't have issues with each other naturally. People create issues with each other when somebody else highlights something. We've seen that time and time and time again. People will only turn on each other, and it's usually propagated by something much bigger. And
Yes.
For me, it's like, I guess my hope for humanity would be that people can wake the fuck up. Like,
That will never happen.
plainly said. But I don't know. Do you think it's idealistic to think that people can actually awaken to truth and awaken to their own opinion and awaken to their own discernment about what they should do and who they should follow and not follow these false prophets, like you call them? Like,
But we're bombarded by those. So have you ever watched the movie Inception?
I have.
Okay, so you remember how there was a dream inside a dream inside a dream?
Yeah.
I feel like we're in an inception right now. That's, even if we wake up, there will be another inception. There's always something else. There's always something else. When we go back to the 1800s where there was royalty, kings that said they were, the blood of the gods and they were the truth, and people, villagers that didn't have information, that couldn't read and write, they believed whatever they was told. This must be the truth. The priest would come and tell you, you do this, this will happen. If you do this, because it was out of ignorance. The thing is, right now,
Ignorance and fear.
yeah, but it comes with, because you're ignorant, it's easier to put fear through you,
Right.
right? You don't know any better.
Right.
We do it with kids. if you don't eat your vegetables, your teeth are gonna fall. We know that's not true now, but kids are like, oh, okay.
Right.
My parents are because we are that figure of authority over our kids. We are not any better than the government, technically speaking, on a lower scale. We do it with kids.
Yeah, but that's not true.
Yes,
That's no. I
yes.
think that's pushing it too far because when we raise our kids, when we say these little white lies, we do it because it's in the best interest of the kid. When the government says
Yeah.
these not white, these big lies, it's in the best interest of corporate.
Yeah, but it
So
scales.
it's not the same thing.
But it scales.
It's not the same thing.
No, I'm not. Okay, so I'm not.
We're
I'm not
not,
trying.
no.
I'm not trying to defend the government here. I'm just saying for them, we're kids. That's all I mean. We're just playing
No,
in
we're
different.
pawns. It's a different thing because kids are attached. There's love attached to children. It's not the same thing.
Okay,
we're
so-
pawns.
so,
We're
okay,
just
so-
basically a means to a way. That's all it is. We're a means to a way. We're pawns. I mean, when you raise a kid, what interest do you have in raising your kid? Like you have the interest of raising a solid adult.
Yes,
That's
have a
gonna
better
go through
version of you.
life. That's going to go through life being responsible and contributing positively to society. That's your own interest. Your interest is not like, let me raise this person to make a lot of money and then they're going to, pay for my retirement. That's not how you're thinking. It's not the same thing. It's like two complete different spectrums.
No, from that regard, when you take it to that level, I totally agree
Okay.
with you. What I meant by that is we do it by reflex. I'm not talking about comparing how the government sees us compared to for the future, because we are pawns of the government. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
We are and to justify the means. I get that.
Right.
But what I meant by that is we do it unconsciously in the sense that we do these white lies, like you said, to control them, for them, sometimes even
To
our.
keep them safe, to help them grow, to
Yeah, but
our
okay, so
motivations
so
are
we do it the
different.
same thing for them to go to bed. If you don't go to bed, the boogie monster's gonna come.
You say that?
No, but we used to when we were kids, way back when. No, my kids don't believe in that stuff. They slept in my bed until they were 4 and 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were safe.
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember as a child, if you don't sleep, the boogie monster, blah blah blah, the
Right.
tooth fairy, whatever you want to call them. We were always telling these stories, these white lies,
fables,
these
yeah.
Monster Inc. type of situations for them to listen to us. It was always scared, right? If you don't do this, this will. If you don't do that, you're not going to. And then religion came the same thing. If you don't do good, you're going to hell.
Yeah, but it's a way to control. You're right.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
And then the government was like, if you don't get vaccinated, you're gonna die, and you're gonna kill other people that you love, right? It's a
And
bigger
you can't go to
scale.
the restaurant.
Exactly.
But
So
you
it's
can take takeout.
no. The logic is
Yeah.
it's crazy. Why if I don't sleep at 8, the monster's gonna come and kill me,
Right.
I'm just saying that the scale is not the same, but it's the same source. We lie and scare to get what we want. That's what I meant by that. We say to the kids, we say to when you coach, when you're a teacher at a certain degree, we all do these things where this is the truth, this is what it is, the end.
Right.
Right? And then there has to be a good person, there has to be a bad person. If you're not following the good person, you must be evil.
You're the bad person.
Right?
Right.
And a lot of people, even through civilizations, when the first, what was his name? It was Kaepernick that said the earth was round, and then they killed him. Was it Kaepernick or Magellan? I don't remember the names. I'm really not good with names. But when he came and approached the church and the scientific body to tell them, the earth, I observed that the earth is round.
Right.
They're like, no, you're in cahoots with the devil. You must die.
Right.
Joke's on him today. Joke's on them
Them.
today. Exactly. So meaning that we always go through these things where there was a lot of people that said the vaccine was pushed too early. Right?
Yeah.
And then they were like, they're the evil people, they're irresponsible, this, and that. Now, when we look at the numbers, it wasn't that crazy.
Correct.
Was he all true? That's another, issue. But the problem is, this is where I get worried, where a truth today is not necessarily a truth tomorrow.
For sure. Because you discover new things.
Yeah. And
Right?
even some are too based on opinions. Right? It's a trending opinion right now. If you didn't do the vaccine, this happens. If you didn't do this, you did that.
Right.
And this is where we're in this whole situation where everything gives you cancer,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
they've patched another problem before that.
Which is?
It was the food, the amount, the money it cost to process these foods. And then it was for poverty, right? To
Right.
fight poverty. So they're like, we created these, spam, whatever it was called, food and everything. Here you go. This is a solution. We're trying to save the world, right, of starvation. And then the side effects of that is all these genetic deformations, cancer, and whatever, autism, OCD issues right now, that stress levels, anxiety, all these things
mental
are,
health, yeah.
they always existed, but the amount now is just crazy. I think it went from 0.02% of the
Why do you
population.
think?
It's everything. Food, social media, the bombardment.
Attention span.
Exactly. So because of that, that's constant. Then we're going to find a patch.
Right.
We will find a solution to that problem when we created it. But that's going to create another problem. Diabetes is a result of that. Now, the pharmaceutical companies said it clearly. We're like, why would we want to find a solution to that? Because now we have a client for life that can live with it.
100%. Where did I hear this? I think it was Peter Crone said if pharmaceuticals really wanted to cure diseases, then why do they write recurring prescriptions?
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
But you know it in the medical system too. Doctors go to school not to teach you to prevent being sick, is how to fix your sickness.
How to fix the symptoms of your illness.
Exactly.
Correct.
If they
and that's
really,
another thing about transgenderism, though, by the way, just like little side note. They have,
you're dropping that at the end.
I'm just putting that in there, but I mean, keep in mind, they're creating lifetime clients because they have to be on hormones for life. They're going to be on medication for life. They're creating literally like lifetime clients.
So you think they're behind this whole movement right now? Because I know it existed, it been existing, but
Of course, there's a statistic that I saw that 5 years ago, I posted about that. 5 years ago, the transgender population between the ages of 18 to 29 was 0.6%. 5 years ago. Today, it's 5%.
okay.
So this big spike is related to this whole agenda, this movement. It's cool to be trans. It's cool to, you know what I mean? So I
But
definitely think that there's an agenda.
I'll play devil's advocate
for
on
it.
this one too, and I have to. It's a must.
Go for it.
It's
go
my
for it.
job.
Of course.
They did the same thing about homosexuals.
Right.
But the theory behind it, that there is a gray zone in this one where because they were afraid to come out, they didn't. That's why once they had the rights and it was accepted in society, you see a peak of them. They were allowed and okay to be themselves. Now, transgenders, I'm guessing there's a little bit of that. Now, out of that spike from how many percent to how much?
0.6
To 5.
5.
Yeah,
in
so
5 years.
probably there's a
to 5 in 5 years.
there's maybe an extra 0.2%, I would say, that they were there and just came out and the rest got influenced. Because I know that these numbers that came out from this American school, I think it was in Massachusetts, where they accepted transgenderism and all of a sudden 15% of the school is transgender now. And that's crazy. Add to that the pronoun game and the gender thing. And I feel
You
like...
know, I mean, I talk to a lot of parents, and there's one of my friends, her son's classmate was going around telling his friends that he's trans or gay or anyway, something of that nature. And so my friend called his mom and said, did you know that your son is going around school saying that he's, let's say, gay? I don't remember if it was trans or gay. And she's like, no, what are you talking about? My son is not gay. So she sat down her son and she says, with all love and openness, is that you? Is that how you feel? Is that, you know? And he says, no, Mom. He goes, I've been saying that because I want to be cool. So there's some crazy shit going on in schools.
No, especially with kids.
Yeah, there's some crazy shit going on in schools. And so I don't know. I don't know why such a minor segment of the population is taking up so much conversation and is being so prevalent in the school system. And, you know, our kids at the age of 6 are learning about like sexuality. Like, what is that?
Yeah, there's the LGBTQ alphabet book. I don't know if you heard about this, where every letter...
Listen, all I can tell you is that one of my employees told me that she has 4 kids, 2 of which one is 6
God
and
bless
one
her
is...
soul.
Bless her soul. So her 6-year-old is in grade 1 and she has a 14-year-old. And she told me that her 6-year-old is learning masturbation in school. And this is not I heard from a friend who knows a friend who's a friend. This is my employee.
I can confirm.
And really, huh?
Well, it was a grade 3, I think.
Yeah, grade 1, 6 years old.
Yeah, but my kids was grade 3.
And then her 14-year-old is being taught from the teacher that before she makes a determination on whether she is straight or gay or bisexual, she should try sex with different genders so she can make that determination after trying it. This is what a teacher is teaching her 14-year-old in school. Like, make that fucking make sense.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I cannot agree to the notion that they're just educating people, they're preaching acceptance. I don't adhere to that.
So, okay, before I close this part, I have to ask you the final big question.
Go for it.
So, because you do have a daughter,
Yeah.
how do you navigate because she's eventually going to go into the school
Yeah,
system.
I'm not. I have definitely made the determination she's not going to go in the public school system.
Okay.
So now I'm in the process of looking at my options.
So what are your options except private?
Well,
What's left?
Well, there's private and there's homeschooling.
Oh,
There's homeschooling. She has some cousins. There's a group of kids her age. So I'm like even debating, do we just get together and create a classroom for them, or? But I'm definitely
but
not.
eventually she has to go back to society.
Well, she's going to be in society, but I'm going to protect my child from this kind of garbage. I need to strengthen her character a little bit,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
You need to be able to make them like have discernment through life, like as young as they are. They have to be able to understand that, right is right, wrong is wrong. This doesn't apply to you. This applies to you. Like, I did not give birth to a daughter for the government to raise her. Right?
Amen to that.
Yeah. So I'm going to do what I have to do to give her the best possible future and teach her how to be a critical thinker. And school doesn't allow for that. And I don't believe in the concept of like learn by heart and just do a test. You need to be able to, question things, to analyze things. And that's what I want to teach her.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like me, who has 2 kids in a high school right now,
Yeah.
it's a hell of a debate.
It is. It's not easy.
But what I did, my little trick was, regardless of what they learn in school, we sit down here and we talk about it.
Yeah.
I try to give them another perspective or different options, and then to use their observations, their analysis, what they've seen so far, and what do they think they believe, and we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as much as you want to protect them, well, except if you do the homeschooling thing.
Yeah,
that's
but you got the foundation down with your kids.
I hope so.
Right?
We'll see.
But
We'll
you
find.
did,
We'll
but
find
you
out.
did because 3 years ago this wasn't going on.
Oh yeah.
So you were able to put core values in your children before the school meddled, right? So this is what I want to accomplish with my daughter.
Yeah.
So
that makes
before I
sense.
put her out there in the real world, I want to make sure that she's solid within her core values, and then she can discern for herself. And all I can do is make sure that I arm her properly to face life.
It is true. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better.
It's going to get a lot worse, yeah. And I feel so protective. I'm naturally a very protective person of
As
my
you
loved
should.
ones. And yeah, like Mama Bear here. Like, for real.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
And on that note, Sahar.